Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
The Durham Public Schools Board of Education work session is now in session. At this time, we wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone who is joining us this evening. The purpose of this meeting is to inform our parents, staff, and constituents about the work aligned with our mission to embrace, educate, and empower every student to innovate, serve, and lead. The interpreters for tonight are members of the Multilingual Resource Center. Thank you for taking the time to join us. The first item on our agenda is a moment of silence. I'd like to ask for us to take a solemn moment to reflect and honor on the lives lost. We remember the nearly 3,000 souls who perished on September 11th, 2001, a tragedy that forever changed our nation and the world. Their memory continues to remind us of the importance of unity, resilience, and compassion. We hold space for the victims of gun violence, especially those lives that were threatened in our schools this week, places that should be sanctuaries for learning, and those lost in the realm of public service and politics who dedicated their lives to their communities. We acknowledge the deep sorrow of the recent passing of an educator in Wake County. Teachers shape the future, and the loss of one is a loss for us all. Please join us in a moment of silence to honor their memories, their families, and the communities left behind. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is agenda review and approval.
Move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Byer, seconded by Ms. Carter-Otten to approve the agenda as presented. At this moment, we are going to do a voice vote. We have Chair Umstead joining us virtually momentarily, but not for this vote, so we can go ahead and vote together if we would like. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes unanimously. I would also like to take the time to acknowledge the student from the Superintendent's Advisory Committee. Council, I'm sorry. Brianna Bree Barahona. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything you'd like to share right now?
I would like to say thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to be informed today, and I'm ready to get this started.
Let's do it. Love it.
Colleagues, the next item on our agenda are the minutes from August 14th.
Approval of the minutes from August 14th, 2025.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Chavez, seconded by Ms. Harold Goff to approve the minutes from August 14th, 2025. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, you can use the same sign, but it passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is general public comment. So a quick review of the rules. First, please state your name. If speaking for an organization, please state your name, the name of the organization. Second, speakers are asked to present their comments in 3 minutes. When the yellow light comes on, you will have 1 minute left to start winding up your remarks. When the red light comes on, it will beep, which will indicate your time is up. Complaints about named staff, students, or parents should not be voiced in open session. However, we are very interested in hearing your concerns with regard to public education, safety of students, and/or the operation of the school system. Finally, board members will listen carefully and consider comments, but we do not engage in a discussion with speakers. Our first speaker is Holly Harden, followed by Fawn Hickey.
Good evening. My name is Holly Harden, and I'm a middle school teacher here in DPS. I am here tonight as a part of a group of parents, teachers, and concerned community members, and concerned that current district policy does not adequately protect students' due process rights or provide enough clarity around how staff should respond in the event of some law enforcement activities, including immigration and customs enforcement. In light of heightened immigration enforcement and federal rescission of sensitive location policies, we urge the district to revise and strengthen Policy 5120 on relationships with law enforcement and adopt a new private zones policy and protocol. As an educator, I know that I cannot do my job if students and families do not feel safe in our schools. I was here under similar circumstances in 2017, fighting alongside students and other teachers for the board to adopt a similar policy that would protect students' due process rights and ensure their physical and emotional safety and undisrupted learning. We were successful in that fight, and the school board at the time voted to approve that policy, officially adopting it as part of Policy 4321 in the district policy manual. But since that time, that policy we fought so hard for was removed without our knowledge. Some elements of Policy 4321 were incorporated into current Policy 5120, but others were stripped out. Our group has submitted revisions to 5120 to the Policy Committee that would add back in those parts and would add additional protections for our students in light of recent policy changes at the federal level. Current Policy 5120 allows any law enforcement officer with a warrant to arrest a student at school without specifying the type of warrant or outlining a protocol for verifying the warrant's validity. It doesn't specify whether school policies related to law enforcement apply just on school grounds and just during school hours, or whether policy extends to include bus stops, to include parking lots, sporting events, field trips, and other school-sponsored activities. Protocol around communicating law enforcement activities to parents is not clear, nor does it include requirements that interpretation must be provided for the student and their family in their home language. Our policy revisions address these concerns and omissions. We urge you to adopt these revisions along with the private zones policy and protocol, which others will share more about, for the safety and well-being of the entire DPS community. Thank you, and I have just a summary of the policy we submitted, so I'll.
If you'll give that to our clerk. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Fern Hickey, and I'm here tonight as a member of School Parents for Immigrant Defense and as a proud DPS parent. I'm here because I'm deeply concerned by the impacts that current federal policies are having on our public schools and our students' ability to access the education they deserve. We may not have the ability to change federal policy right now, but we can strengthen local policy to protect against some of the harms. In addition to proposing revisions to current policy 5120, we also urge the board to adopt a new private zones administrative policy and protocol. This policy, which was drafted by lawyers at the ACLU and the NC Justice Center, outlines detailed steps to be followed in the event of immigration enforcement activities or inquiries, making it clear what school staff should do and what students and parents can expect if such an event were to unfold. We believe this policy is necessary to alleviate some of the fears and uncertainty currently affecting parents' ability to feel safe sending their kids to school and students' ability to access an education free from fear. I was grateful when a letter was sent to parents back in February, reaffirming the district's commitment to safety, privacy, inclusion, and support for all students. But this letter did not provide detailed information about how the district would respond in the event of immigration enforcement activities, nor has such information been forthcoming in the time since then. Without an explicit protocol in place that all school staff are trained on, parents and students will continue to face unnecessary fear and uncertainty, which will in turn impact attendance rates, students' ability to learn, and quite likely district enrollment. I'm joined today by other parents, teachers, and students who are here to share some of the fears families are facing or experiencing in the absence of clear district policy. We know that you share our desire for all DPS students to be able to learn free from fear. And we look forward to working with you to strengthen district policy in support of that shared goal. Thank you.
Thank you. River Wadsworth, Mercedes McCurley.
Everybody, let's see. All right. All right, thank you. My name is River Wadsworth. I'm a DPS parent and a proud teacher at Hillside High School and also a member of DAE. And first, I just want to offer my sincere thanks to the many of you on the board and district leadership who have already been working to keep on how to keep our immigrant students and their families safe and to be able to co-create the education that they deserve. So that's a thank you first. I want to talk about urgency and I want to talk about strategy. And to try to assure you on the board that you have broad and deep support to do what's right. So fundamentally, this is about our humanity. It's not about numbers or learning objectives. I'm sorry. It's inconceivably that in this moment, young people must fear being kidnapped while at school or that their families may not be there when they come home. I trust, however, that you will feel this urgency and also will soon hear it upon hearing other testimonials. So I'm here to speak as a teacher. So it's too soon to have confirmed enrollment numbers, but we have seen our multilingual learner enrollment at Hillside down roughly 20% from last year. Attendance numbers are even worse. Especially hard hit are our refugee students, many of whom have already fled wars, and also our newcomers, people this is their first year in the country. It's also very hard to ask multilingual parents to come to any kind of school event, very difficult to foster their active participation, shaping and supporting the school. We have lost, just from last year, award-winning students, college-bound, exemplary students. They're just gone. And we don't know what has happened to them. So this is what the reproduction of a racial caste system looks like in our time. We all know the importance, 1 minute, of literacy throughout a person's lifetime. Okay, so even students who do show up to class, I'm going to summarize this. Even students who do show up to class are still facing hurdles. Studies often focusing on Black students confronting racism in schools show that, like, just physiologically, the brain cannot learn. You cannot focus on academic study if you're in fear. And so this is next level. And lastly, strategy. We are not asking for bravado. We're not asking for us to stand up. The NC Justice resolutions are perfectly legal. As teachers, what we need is just clarity. We need protocol we can follow, and we need excellent training for all of our schools. Thank you so much.
Hello, I see my time to Jair. Thank you.
Thank you. Yair Pina Ringo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yahir. I am currently a freshman here in high school. I'm proud to be a Mexican descendant here in this great country. Well, that's what I thought just a few months ago, that this was a great country. But I still believe and have hope that this can continue to be a great country. My kindergarten teacher asked me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I responded, "I want to become an architect and be a soccer player." Now I feel that this can be denied at any moment. My family, my friends, my teachers, my neighbors, everyone was just fine. My life was great all the way to middle school, until one day everything changed. One day I suddenly woke up hearing the other side of the door. My family talking about being worried about the daily news, about what was happening in this country. I didn't feel a need to worry about that until this last summer. One day I was trying to go play soccer with one of my best friends and enjoy summer with them before high school started. I couldn't get in touch with them. The days passed not knowing what was happening with them. One day I asked my mom if I could visit them. When we got to their house, we found out that he and his family were gone. A few days later, I got a text from him. He texted me, "Hey, Yahir, me and my family left the USA because of what's happening all over the US. My family was really worried and didn't feel safe anymore. I'm really gonna miss all the memories we had in school and out of school, playing soccer with you and being even soccer teammates. That really hurt because we all known each other almost for 4 years. I know friends come and go in life, but not like this. Their families didn't feel safe and secure anymore. You don't understand the fear and anxiety that some of us feel knowing we could be the next family to leave from here. Now the question is, do I feel safe at school? I said I don't know anymore. My family would protect me at home, but what about school? What are you going to do to protect all my friends and students that have been targeted just because of the color of our skin? I request that school board to inform to train everyone who works in schools on how to handle this type of situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Macias, M. Magano, Katie Magano.
Good evening. I'm Tony Macias. I'm also a proud DPS parent and a member of School Parents for Immigrant Defense. I'm going to read a letter written by a concerned parent who wishes to remain anonymous, and will first read it in Spanish in the language it was written, and then I will read it in English. Esta carta está dirigida a la Junta de Educación de las Escuelas Públicas de Durham. Como madre de 3 hijas, tengo la responsabilidad de ver por su educación y su salud emocional. Trato de mantenerlas tranquilas en mi hogar. Ahora su otra preocupación es en las escuelas, por todos los cambios que hay en los últimos meses. Por lo cual les pido por favor, tomen en cuenta la gran responsabilidad que tienen cada uno de ustedes para que cada estudiante se sienta seguro en las escuelas de DPS y que estén enfocados en sus estudios y en su futuro. Revisen con detalle la política 5120 e informen con mucha claridad cómo ustedes se están preparando para los cambios, cómo se están capacitando para las nuevas políticas, a quiénes van a capacitar, cuánto tiempo dura esta capacitación. Y por último, les pido que por favor informen a los alumnos, profesores y padres para que sepamos cómo actuar cada uno de nosotros, porque sabemos que las familias más afectadas con estos cambios son los inmigrantes y refugiados de Durham. Espero la solidaridad de ustedes. Atentamente, Anónima. This letter is addressed to the Durham Public Schools Board of Education. As a mother of 3 daughters, I am responsible for their education and emotional well-being. I try to keep them calm at home. Now, their other concern is at school, due to all the changes that have taken place in recent months. Therefore, I ask you to please consider the great responsibility that each of you has to ensure that every student feels safe in DPS schools and is focused on their studies and on their future. Please review Policy 5120 in detail and clearly communicate how you are preparing for any changes. How are you training around these new policies? Who will you train? And how long will that training last? And finally, I ask that you please inform students, teachers, and parents so that we all know how to act. We know that the families most affected by these changes are immigrants and refugees in Durham. I am asking for your solidarity. Sincerely, Anonymous. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elin McGonnell, and I'll be ceding my time to Katie McGonnell.
Katie McGonnell. Before I begin tonight, I want to make something really clear in this room. Many of you know that I had the intention to run for this board in 2026. And despite my passion and my desire to serve my community and our educators and students, like that brave kid right there, I can't be the leader that Durham deserves and the mother to my girls who are going to need me in these last years of high school. So when I'm here tonight, I'm not here laying a political foundation. I'm not putting my footprint down. I am here to hold you directly accountable. It's September and I'm a teacher. And in past years, I would have just assumed that this upper respiratory illness is because of the little petri dishes I serve on a daily basis in my classroom. But this year, I find myself asking, is the illness coming from the children I teach or from the building I teach in? If you'd like this, clerk, you can certainly have it. Instead of attending Montessori training today, I spent my day seeking medical attention to figure out exactly why I am sick. Thank you, Dr. Lewis, for finally providing some surface level details about our air quality testing. But my mind is blown at the timeline of these events. DPS had the initial IAQ testing performed on Thursday, August 21st. But with no results in hand, the district took it upon themselves to assume that our building was safe, and we hosted open house to hundreds of families that same night. The next Friday, August 22nd, you received raw service and air sample reports. Clearly, you didn't like what you saw because you ordered a full report from SNME. Yet, the following Thursday, August 28th, Dr. Hogan stood before our staff on your behalf. I invited all of you and said that the district had received the results and our air quality was safe. I now know that that was untrue because I reached out directly to SNME and I found out you got your results on Tuesday, September 8th. Let me remind you that if it hadn't been for a brave colleague demanding action, this testing would have never even taken place. That reality terrifies me. Our building's only 32 years old. If this is happening here, what is happening in older schools across the district? I am fortunate to work under a school leader who allows his staff to speak the truth rather than reprimand us into silence to preserve an image. And the truth is that symptoms and illness among staff are piling up, but clearly listing them here does not move this board to action. So let me tell you about one child. We have an immune-compromised little girl who hasn't been to school for 3 weeks. Not because this district protected her, it's because her teacher did. I picked up the phone. I disclosed our building's insecurities. I did this because I held that little girl in my arms last December when her body collapsed into chaos. We were moments away from leaving that school in an ambulance together. You guys didn't visit her in the hospital when she was there for nearly 2 weeks. You didn't witness the agony her little body endured as the doctors desperately sought for answers. And when a diagnosis finally came, you didn't buy the children's book off Amazon and read it to your class to explain to her how her new autoimmune disease was her superpower. I did. This district was prepared to let her walk into that building without any data to confirm her safety. That failure directly contradicts point 2 of your strategic plan to provide a safe and healthy learning environment that supports the whole child. I would hope that my health is included in that statement as well. Your inaction has spoken louder than your words, and I promise you, your silence has not gone unnoticed. You make me want to quit teaching. You make me want to quit the one thing that I've been driven to do. And that's a goddamn shame.
Thank you. Avery O'Brien, Aiden Mendoza Maya, Emily Kahn, and Christy Clem.
Hello, my name is Avery O'Brien, and I cede my time to Aiden Mendoza Maya.
Good evening. My name is Aiden Mendoza Maya, and I am the recruitment lead of the Sunrise Movement Hub at DSA. As you all know, last year, along with many other students throughout DPS, advocated to the board for a Green New Deal for DPS. And although we may not, we have not given up on this, we do recognize the financial restrictions that our school district is under that make these demands difficult. We recognize that in our individual conversations with you all, you agreed with our cause and our demands, but felt weary of your own jurisdiction on the matter at this time. However, we also recognize that we, as students, cannot make an impact for this degree at the state level without the support of city councils and school districts. We see the value of taking action in local communities, especially in times when the federal government has forsaken its responsibility to represent the interest of us, the people. We know that we need to build from our local communities in order to give a voice back to the citizens of America. So we come to you today with a new ask, a new resolution. Currently, the National Sunrise Movement is running a campaign to make polluters pay, a legislative campaign that would pass bills at the state level to require large polluting corporations to pay proportionally to their emissions. These funds would then be collected in the state level climate superfund, which in our proposed resolution would be distributed back into our local communities for green initiatives in public schools, like improving air quality in schools, ensuring that schools are a safe place for all. It's not right that billionaires who run these companies get to hoard more money than we can comprehend. Well, here at elementary schools in Durham, we are scraping together funds for reliable heating systems. However, this kind of legislative change won't happen without local resolutions of support, and it also won't happen overnight. That's where you all come in. We spent our summer compiling a new demand of the school board, one that urges your support as we move to state level action, while also calling upon our district to move toward green initiatives in creative ways that don't require state funding. So we propose that the board pass the items of our previous resolution that requires little financial commitment, but high levels of information gathering, community collaboration, and uplifting of young voices. 1. We urge DPS to mitigate and adapt to the climate crisis by committing to completing a comprehensive environmental assessment of all district facilities and operations. 2. Operating with local and state governments, nonprofit organizations, business leaders, students, teachers, and parents to create a comprehensive district-wide climate disaster plan. 3. Establish a committee inclusive of students, teachers, and local climate experts to add climate curriculum across grade levels and subjects, and to audit science textbooks to include information on environmental justice and the disproportionate effect of the climate crisis on minority communities. 4. Partnering with local and state governments, businesses, nonprofit organizations, unions, and trade/technical schools to expand pathways to well-paying union jobs, combating the climate crisis, and career technical offerings. And 5. Incorporating climate change mitigation, education, adaptation, and disaster response in the annual superintendent evaluation beginning this year and into the 2029-2034 DPS strategic plan, with specific measurable time-bound goals and research-informed strategies under each priority. In addition to these efficient demands, we urge that the Durham Public Schools Board to advocate to relevant state representatives for statewide Superfund legislation that will fund green initiatives for schools, such as update school infrastructure to run on 100% clean energy, provide locally sourced and sustainably grown lunch, connect students with meaningful and well-paying union jobs combating the climate crisis, create climate disaster plans for school districts and their surrounding communities, and develop a comprehensive climate justice curriculum. Lastly, we urge the Durham Public Schools District Superintendent, Dr. Anthony Lewis, to forward a copy of this resolution to relevant city and state officials who are specified in our resolutions. All of our more detailed demands are included in our new resolution draft, and we look forward to speaking with each of you on what it will take for this action to move forward. Our time is running out, and we must act now. We will be emailing our resolutions to you guys after the school board meeting. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily Kahn, and I'm the parent of two girls at Durham Public Schools, one at C.C. Spalding Elementary and one at Lakewood Montessori Middle. During Attendance Awareness Month, I'm asking the board to reconsider family responsibility zones at low-income elementary schools like C.C. Spalding. On the surface, this policy may appear fair because it applies the same standard to all schools that meet the criteria. But fairness and justice are not the same. Fairness treats everyone the same. Justice recognizes the different barriers families face. Justice works to create a level playing field so that all children have a chance to succeed. At C.C. Spalding, many families in our responsibility zone face serious challenges that make daily attendance difficult. No sidewalks on neighborhood streets, a school located on a dangerous high-speed thoroughfare, limited access to vehicles or transportation, parents working shift jobs without flexibility, and police activity in nearby neighborhoods, one which caused a lockdown at our elementary school this afternoon. The Southside neighborhood has organized volunteers to help, but we cannot cover every family, especially at dismissal. The policy is not improving attendance, it's making it harder for children to get to school safely. I urge the board to reconsider this rule for low-income schools and instead work with families and communities to remove barriers, not add them. Every child in Durham deserves the chance to attend school safely every day. As a parent, I want what every parent wants, for my daughters and for all of our children to walk through school doors with safety, dignity, and the same opportunity to learn as anyone else. Thank you.
Hello, Christy Clem, physical therapist, member of DAE. I'm here for OTs, PTs, all of classified. A couple people asked me today, are you going to go again? And I said, yes. They said, why? And I said, well, if I've been running a marathon and I've been showing up for 2 years, I'm not going to stop in what I hope is the final mile. So I'm hopeful when the internal study that Mr. Teeter's working on comes out soon, that we see it's truly the finish line for classified and having fair competitive wages versus realizing it's turning into an ultra marathon. People will drop out of an ultra marathon. We've already had lots drop out of this regular marathon. Almost 2 years ago exactly, 5 OTs and I went to a board meeting, spoke, then gave letters, sent information. I look back through my phone, look at a picture of it today. 3 of the 5 are gone due to pay. Heard me say a couple meetings ago, we've had 10 OTs leave, maybe 9 or 10 OTs leave since June. PT was short 1 person coming into this school year, and in the last week, we've had 2 resignations. PT has with going to bordering counties. Multiple reasons in that, but pay definitely being a factor. We are missing 3 of 8 PTs. 38% of our staff is vacant. And you have 5 people remaining in that small department. Yesterday in the meeting, there were tears shed in the group saying bye to those who are leaving soon and going to things that are better for them. But the remaining 5 go, how are we supposed to piece this together? How? Which child do you want me to pick to see, and which one do you want me to pick not to see? We spend more money on contractors than you do a direct hire. We spend more time onboarding and trying to get a contractor to stay. A contractor is not going to be vested in DPS like a direct hire. Please pay DPS direct hires what you need to pay us to be competitive to get us to stay. If I went to the neighboring county where these other 2 folks do it, year 30 here, year 7 in that other county would be paying me more than year 30 here. Please correct that. Let this be a marathon with the finish line coming with hopefully good information very soon for all classified. And then just tell us to hang on and get through this next year to hopefully see something competitive next school year. Do it for the students. You are losing good, dedicated people across the board in classified positions. And the people who are here can't just keep hanging on when the finish line keeps changing. Thank you.
Thank you all. Colleagues, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda?
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Harold Goff, seconded by Ms. Byer to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I apologize. I've just been informed Mr. Tab joined us virtually. So we'll do a voice vote and we'll start with Mr. Tab. We're approving the consent agenda. Good evening, Mr. Tab.
Good evening, everyone. I vote aye. Wendell Tab.
Ms. Chavez,
Aye.
Ms. Byer,
Aye.
Ms. Carter-Iden,
Aye.
Ms. Harold Goff,
Aye.
and I vote aye. The consent agenda passes unanimously. Thank you all. The next item on our agenda is administration, the bank recommendation.
Good evening, work session Chair Rogers, board members, and Dr. Lewis. So thank you for having this on the agenda this evening. And so we do have a guest with us. So we have Mr. Kevin Harewood with JP Morgan Chase. And I will, you know who I am, and I'll let him introduce himself before I make my presentation.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kevin Harewood. I am an executive director with JP Morgan Chase in our government banking group. I cover, I help develop our relationships with cities, counties, and school districts across the state. I work in our office in Raleigh. I'm a proud DPS parent. 2 kids who have graduated through DPS, and my baby boy, Evan, is a junior at J.D. Clement early college, excuse me. Here to answer any questions that you might have of myself, our company, our proposal, and our commitment to Durham.
So if we can move to the next slide, we'll provide the board just with some context of our current banking environment as it exists in Durham Public Schools. And so at this current point, as the board is aware, we receive hundreds of millions in state and federal dollars that we are not allowed to earn interest on. And so the state and the federal government earn their own interest. And so we pull down those funds only as we need them on a weekly basis. So those are managed in a core checking account that's housed with the state treasurer in North Carolina. So that is not really a part of our conversation this evening. Beyond that, we have a variety of other banking accounts and activities that we engage in to manage our local funds, capital outlay, workers' comp, for our self-insured workers' comp fund, school nutrition, grants that we receive, and of course, each of our individual schools have their own checking account to manage their school level funds. So quite a bit. So a lot of history here so Durham's banking relationship started with Central Carolina Bank and followed that through the train to when it became Truist, or when it became SunTrust, and then SunTrust became Truist, right? So it's been quite some time since we've really had a thorough review of the relationship, and in particular in this kind of a public setting. We also have one account for our Grants and Community Schools Fund and 6 of our schools with Mechanics and Farmer here, and we list the schools that currently have a relationship with Mechanics and Farmer. And I'll just say that this work, I wish I could say I was surprised. No finance officer really enjoys putting this out for review because it's a big change and it's a lot of work for the finance officer and the staff to implement the change once you do that. And so it's not often that our institutions have an opportunity to put in an offer for school system business. You don't see this happen much. And so I think as we get through the presentation, we'll see that it was a fruitful activity for Durham Public Schools to go through that. And so in our process, we communicated our RFP to our banks that have an infrastructure in Durham, and by that meaning that they've got some form of a branch presence within Durham County. And we did, through that process, interview all of our firms who elected to respond to the RFP. That committee consisted of myself and a number of finance staff members, along with a school treasurer who serves on our school treasurer advisory committee. This one in particular has a unique lens in that she's one of our schools that is cashless and has kind of an interesting perspective just on the online banking environment and other features that might be suitable for a school that doesn't touch actual cash. So moving on from that, we had a number of, obviously a lot of criteria on the next slide. We need to bump up 2 more slides. We had quite a bit of criteria that we were looking at in order to assess our financial partner, and the committee graded our presenters on a rubric in order to have this be as independent as possible and as quantitative as possible while we were looking at this. I won't read all of the categories, but you can see we were looking for service, we were looking for a good interest rate, looking for technology that was going to meet our needs, an institution that is able to provide the collateralization that the state of North Carolina requires for all of our funds, and fraud protection and things of that nature. On the next slide, we share the firms that we heard from in the process. And so our non-incumbent firms that we interviewed were PNC, Wells Fargo, and JP Morgan Chase. And then we also received a proposal and conducted an interview with Truist, who's one of our incumbent institutions. On the next slide, we talk through our recommendation, and then in a moment we'll kind of share how that institution scored in the process. And so again, we're recommending that obviously we don't have much choice in the process. Our state and federal funds remain as they are through that core checking account that we have with the state treasurer. And we're recommending that our local accounts that we discussed earlier, along with those 51 schools, migrate from Truist to JP Morgan Chase. Our Grant and Community Schools Fund, we recommend that migrate to JP Morgan Chase as well to uncomplicate some of our transactions when we do have occasions where we need to move money from that fund to our funds that are currently at Truist. And so it will simplify the work in our accounting department to have that together. For our 6 schools who are currently banking with Mechanics and Farmer, we recognize the significance of Mechanics and Farmer being a local operation here in Durham. And so we want to honor that legacy and that investment in those 6 schools can certainly remain with Mechanics and Farmer, and we would not compel them to migrate to JP Morgan Chase unless they come to us and say, hey, we'd like to do that. On the next slide, we just share the criteria. We operated with a total scale of 100 with 5 bonus points for any kind of value added services that we found to be unique. And as you can see, JP Morgan Chase rated very well with the committee. And we were just very impressed with the presentation that we received and with the technology that was demonstrated to us and the support that we would have. On the next slide, we talk about the advantages of this recommendation, right? So there are, of the interviews that we conducted, we felt sort of the most commitment in terms of a presence with bank branches and growth in the Durham community. So there are currently 2 existing branches in Durham, one on 9th Street and one in the South Point area. There is a 3rd one that's very close to opening, I believe, in the Oxford Commons shopping center, our community center, with a 4th branch that I don't think we're allowed to say where it's going to go just yet. And so we're just very grateful and glad to see. It's rare now that we're seeing banks open branches. We're seeing more closures, or we're seeing banks kind of cling on to their multiple branches and having very thin staffing in order to keep those branches open. We're very pleased that this one was pleasing and painful at the same time, right? In that through this process, we're able to get a much better interest rate on our checking accounts than we currently have have been receiving from our incumbent partners, and just conservative math, 600,000 more per year in interest income for Durham Public Schools, kind of with this transition. And I think the painful part is wish that Durham could have gotten to this point sooner. We could have been kind of realizing some gains sooner, but we're here, we're moving forward, and we're excited about that. All of our bank fees with this model are currently covered. And so we have to maintain a minimum of 2.5 million across our accounts in order to mitigate any kind of banking fees. And that's very reasonable for us. And we're able to do that. Very excited about the opportunity for free remote check deposit scanners at all of our locations. We do have one in central office that we use to reduce the need to actually go to a branch. Our schools that are currently cashless would benefit from this greatly, and it for those treasurers would reduce their need to leave the building in order to go to the bank, and would reduce us having to reimburse for mileage and things of that nature. So that's a real opportunity for some efficiency for some of our school treasurers who don't touch cash. And for our schools who happen to have a day that there is no cash and only checks, that will be great for them in those instances. Related to that, and it's just sort of separate from this project, we are on the side thinking about some solutions to even help on the cash front, to see what we might do there in the near future to help keep our treasurers at the school as much as possible. And we were also just very impressed with the web platform. That was an opportunity for a lot of improvement with the incumbent situation, and we were very pleased with that platform. And it's something that we interact with daily in finance. Our treasurers interact with it on a regular basis as well. And I really like the search features and our ability to quickly research things in the platform that was presented by JP Morgan. On the next slide, we just sort of share our timeline for the implementation of that project. And so ultimately, right, we're seeking your approval. And so when we originally compiled this, it was contingent upon legal approval of the contract and the service agreement. That review is now complete, and everybody's in an agreeable spot with the documents. And so we're very happy about that, that we were able to make progress on that. And one thing that was helpful for that and made that go a little smoother than normal is that the city of Durham has recently migrated their banking services to JP Morgan Chase, and we had sort of those documents as a launching point to bring things aligned with North Carolina government. So once we've got your approval, we'll be at a spot where we can start our testing processes, making sure that they're able to read our check images, get signature files lined up, and start testing just really critical ACH files. So we want to make sure that we don't have payroll snags with that banking change. So we want to test that as soon as possible to make sure we're good to go. Probably November through December, we'll start really doing some work to update. We do have vendors who send us money electronically, including the state. And so we've got to get some paperwork done and put some things in place to make sure they have the right information for us. And then we will be live in our new banking environment January 1st. We recognize that we'll have to provide some training for our treasurers. This will be sort of a unique environment for some of them because Durham's not been through the bank change per se. And so there will be a brief period of time where they'll be combining two bank statements to reconcile their books for their school. And we're prepared to support them through that and make sure that that period of time is as short as possible. So we're starting our process now for checks that have not cleared the bank, that need to clear the bank, working with folks to find out why they haven't cashed those and things of that nature. So worst case scenario, it would be about this time next year before any old Truist checks have cleared, but we'll be working diligently to get it done before that, just so our bookkeepers don't have to hang on to that. So we're going to be really go above and beyond the state's requirements for sheeting old checks to make sure that we minimize the impact of the change for our treasurers. So I know I've said a whole awful lot very fast, but on the next slide, we just call for board questions. And so Mr. Harewood and I are happy to answer any questions you might have this evening.
Thank you.
I'll start with my colleagues here in the room and then move to the colleagues online. Ms. Chavez.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harewood, if I'm saying it correctly, for being here. So this sounds like a positive change for us. So I'm looking forward to, well, we probably won't feel anything up here, but or here, but not, dealing with the nitty gritty. But thank you. It sounds like it'll create more efficiency for us and among other things. So one comment on this on slide 2. I think something got changed, and I just wanted to bring that up. It says the Grant and Community Schools Fund will be held with Mechanics and Farmer.
So that's our current environment.
Okay.
And then on slide a little deeper into the presentation, on slide 6, we kind of paint the transition.
Got it. Okay, so sorry about that. And then my one question is, what all is encompassed in the Grant and Community Schools Fund, which is now going to be community ed?
Right. So great question. So in the current environment that I kind of stepped into, there was a blend of things in there, right? So our before and after care program and all of the work that they do, their funds are managed there. And we also have a number of grants and donations that were managed there. Specifically, the Mackenzie Scott contribution was a major tenet of that account, right? That is no longer. And so we have been working in order to uncomplicate our accounting work and make things easier for the finance staff. We have been migrating our new grants and donations away from that account and moving it over to our Fund 8, our special use fund, right? Just to make that extra clear. And so our goal is ultimately that Fund 6 or that community schools fund will be nothing but our before and after care programming, just to make that cleaner and make that more explicit that that's what that's for.
Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you so much.
Ms. Byer.
Thank you. Mr. Teeter, I just want to express gratitude to you for leading this group of staff through this RFP process. It is overdue, obviously, and I look forward to you gently leading all the staff that will have to do a lot of training, and I can't even imagine reconciling moving accounts. Can you talk a little bit more about how you're going to support staff in that big transition?
Absolutely. So we do have, so right at the end of the day, the big piece for our school treasurers in particular, right, is that they'll be getting a legacy truist statement that has checks that are progressively clearing. The deposits will ultimately go away, right? And so their truist account's really going to get to a point of just checks that are clearing that account that predate the change. And they'll pair that with their new statement that will come from JP Morgan Chase, and they'll take the two totals right from those statements and add those up to make that match to their books. But our goal is to help them clear that out, clear out the truist checks as quickly as possible. And so we do have retired school treasurers on staff that'll support them through that. And then we also do, we're positioned, so we have a retired school auditor that worked with me in a past life that will also help supplement that, who's been through bank changes. I've been through that as well, but I can only be so many places, right? And so she'll also kind of be available to them to help manage through that process. And then JP Morgan Chase has helped other districts through that, and they'll be, they've given us some advice and some strategies to kind of help quickly clear out the old checks. And so we were very pleased in their presentation about how they've helped districts transition.
Thank you. Are treasurers aware that this is happening, do you think, or will it?
They are now. So
Yeah.
but we wanted to make sure it was approved before we did that. And certainly we know at a minimum, Ms. Alpazar, who was on our committee, is aware. And so we will have some, with approval tonight, right, we'll have some very kind of specific communication that goes to our treasurers to let them know what's occurred and the timeline and what we're going to do for them.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Malone, I saw you nod that you have reviewed this contract, and
Yes, we have. Jason Weber in our office did, yes.
thank you.
Colleagues, we have about 5 minutes left for questions. Ms. Harold Goff?
Thank you. My question, I hope, is really simple. It was, you mentioned that it had been a long time since we'd done this, but it sounds like that you've been through bank transitions before in other places. Is this something that is common practice to revisit it every certain amount of time? Like, is this if it hasn't been done in a while, is this something that will become a part of our new practice to be
It will, you know, and I have a reputation of being just an RFP, I guess, I don't know, just people know me, right, as just someone who puts RFPs out quite a bit for services, just to stay on top of that and make sure that we're on the edge of things. And so it is definitely a best practice for us to do that, you know, every 3 to 5 years or so for this banking, you know, relationship. But if you have the right relationship, it does make that a little bit smoother, and knowing that you're getting the best rate that you could get, and having the right partners at the table. But certainly, I've been through this process, and we have retained the incumbent bank, and I've been through the process before where we've made the change, and so so regardless, right, it's a good thing to put out for review. Is yeah,
to make sure that we're
getting the best we can. Yeah.
getting the best we can and in the best relationship that we can have? Thank you.
Colleagues, Mr. Tab has a question, and then I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Teeter. A quick question. First, thank you very much for maintaining that long-time partnership that Durham Public Schools has had with Mechanics and Farmers Bank. I'm glad to see that those 6 schools are still being included. My simple question is that locked in? Can other schools, if they wanted to work with Mechanics and Farmers with their local in-house school funds, are they able to do that moving forward, or is that something that has not been discussed?
So we have not necessarily had that discussion, but we, if we do have a principal to make that request, we certainly will make sure we have that conversation.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question. Thank you very much.
Ms. Carter-Iden?
I just want to make a motion. Are we ready? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the transition of our banking relationship to JP Morgan Chase and to retain up to 6 school checking accounts with Mechanics and Farmer.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Carter-Iden, seconded by Ms. Byer, to transition our banking services to JB Chase. I'm sorry, we can get the name right. Y'all not gonna tell me? Okay. JP Morgan, thank you. JP Morgan Chase, and maintain up to 6 schools at Mechanics and Farmer. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, discussion.
That's right. Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah. That's why I asked that question, because I didn't want it to be that principals could not have that conversation with Mechanics and Farmers.
Yeah. Mr. Malone, would you like us to vote this down, or how would you like us to modify the motion?
If someone wants to modify the motion, you could make a motion to amend the motion to, instead of saying up to 6.
Ms. Carter-Iden?
I'm not ready to amend the motion because I wanted to hear from Mr. Teeter what the implications of that would be and what your preference is. It sounds like you've made a call that most schools should transition. And so I don't know that we want to open the door to all schools being able to, but I would love to hear more from you on this.
Right, I'm fine, right, if the motion were to be amended to say to maintain our 6 school accounts at Mechanics and Farmer, like we could work with that. That'd be sufficient.
Sorry, I thought when we talked about it previously, and I understood your interpretation to be that they could stay or they could choose to move, transition.
Right, right.
So-
We want to work with our principals, right? And so for now, we're not going to compel the 6 mechanics and farmer schools to make a change. And so I think our goal this evening is to make the big change to JP Morgan and Chase, but honor those 6 schools that are currently at mechanics and farmer.
Okay. So the motion on the floor is up to the 6 schools that are at mechanics and farmers. Mr. Tab, I'll start with you on the vote if there's not further discussion.
Mr. Tapp, I vote aye.
Ms. Chavez,
Aye.
sorry.
Well, actually, I have a question because can we say the motion again one more time?
Mhm.
Because
ma-
okay,
Go
you
ahead.
just read it, but I thought that when it was stated by Ms. Carter Otten, she did not say up to 6. She just said 6. So I wanted to clarify that.
You said up to 6.
Okay, all right, aye.
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 No. But it passes 5-1. Ms. Carter Otten.
If it were to come to pass that more schools felt very strongly about transitioning, can this come back before the board?
Yeah, oh, certainly. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
He's getting busy.
The next item on our agenda is the 25-26 finance update.
Okay, so thank you again. So we, in a board meeting at the work session in August, we had shared with the board that we would come back to you at this work session to provide an update on where we are in the current school year and how we're trending in our ability to try to do something ourselves in the absence of state support for a change in classified employee compensation. I think the conversations, right, have just as we were going through the budget cycle last year to develop this budget, right, we heard clearly, that if we can do at least 2% for our classified employees, that would be a good goal for Durham. And so we are keeping that in mind and looking for every way possible for us to do that. And so we just want to continue to be transparent as we do our work to build up to that point, and share as much information as we can publicly of why we make a call when we do, and when we feel comfortable agreeing to things. And so on the next slide, just some pertinent updates on the state side of the world, which is really the biggest variable to this, and it's also a variable that's mostly out of our control. And so one, state still has not adopted a permanent budget, and so I have diminishing confidence that it's going to happen, but we'll see. The state of North Carolina, specifically the Department of Public Instruction, has, as they historically do, have been releasing our funds to us in waves. And so when we just kind of compare where we are now, the 24-25 year, we ended with about 245.6 million or so in state funding. We started this year before the mini budget went into place and before our colleagues at the Department of Public Instruction really delved into their work of releasing funds. We started at 199.2. We don't sweat that because we go through this every year and we know that stuff is coming in waves. At the time that we made this presentation, we had surged back to 240 to almost 240.8, and we are continuing to receive resources. So we had communication just yesterday about $800,000 of funding that's going to be coming our way tomorrow. And so they're continuing to do their work to implement the state budget as they believe it to be right now. So we've got a couple of other pieces that we're reconciling. So we have 2 restart schools in Durham Public Schools that require a transfer of funds in order to operationalize those and comply with how restart schools work. The state of North Carolina gives us a rate per child that we have to transfer in order to make that happen. We still do not have that rate quite yet, largely due to the budget circumstance at the state. And then we are, as the board is aware, we have a number of international exchange teachers that there's some financial conversions that are involved in that that we're working to finalize, right? We had a number of teachers sort of join us close to the start of school, so it was some work to tidy that up. The most pertinent bullet point, right, is our estimate at this time is we would need $3 million in order to make this work for our staff. And so laser focused on these variables, and we're continuing every time we get an update, we're reacting, we're refiguring, and we recognize the significance and the importance for us to be able to do something at a minimum of 2%, and we do it in a way that we can sustain it, and that we don't have to come back to you later and say we made a mistake, or we just don't want to live through that. So this just kind of shows you where we are in things that we're evaluating. On the next slide, we just kind of share just a very high level steps of where we are, right? We're continuing to monitor those state funds as they're released. We're still working to monitor our enrollment and any kind of adjustments that we may need to make that are reflective of how our enrollment panned out compared to what was projected. So that's a major important work that we do at this time of year. And then we will make another report to you September 25th to let you know how have these variables in question materialized as we get closer. So we're working hard on that. The budget department and I are talking about it at least 2 or 3 times a day. Here's this, here's that, as the pieces come together. So just wanted to make sure we honored our commitment to provide that update and share as much information as we could so that folks know we are working on it. Happy to answer questions.
Colleagues, any questions? Ms. Byer?
This is maybe a question for anybody, including Dr. Lewis and Mr. Teeter. Like, is anybody hearing anything about what the General Assembly is going to do when they are going to get back and do their jobs, which is to take our tax dollars and fund our staff on behalf of our students? Anybody hearing anything that from our?
I'll preface this by saying I always say hope is not a strategy. I had a meeting today with a member of our delegate assembly, and he seemed to be hopeful that it will be revisited next month. And so that's the only update that I've received. And so remain skeptical, but hopeful as well. But I appreciate this update because, you know, as we say, our kids can't wait, our staff can't wait either.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Teeter.
All right, thank you.
The next item on our agenda is Academic Services 2024-2025 as Accountability Model Results. Dr. Reister, welcome.
Good evening. Next slide, please. While they're pulling up the next slide. Good evening, DPS board members and Dr. Lewis. Welcome to the 2024-25 Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA DPS Accountability Data presentation. I am Al Royster, Executive Director of Research and Accountability. Today, I will review the district and schools accountability data for the 24-25 school year. I'd like to introduce my outstanding team, Dr. Michelle Tuck Thomas, Director of Assessments and Accountability, Mr. Nelson Searles, Director of Data Integration and Accountability, and Mr. Adam Johnson, Data and Reporting Coordinator. He's not here tonight. They were instrumental in helped me compiling this data and creating this presentation. My goal is to present district and school data collected from our students and staff aligned with guidelines from NC DPI. DPS departments have reviewed and will continue to reflect on these results to identify both strengths and areas of growth while making adjustments based on our DPS 2023 to 28 strategic plan to ensure alignment with district priorities, address identified challenges, and build on successful practices. I do have about 48 slides tonight, a lot of data and celebrations. So as y'all know me, as I do presentations, I'll try to be as efficient as possible going through these slides. Next slide, please. The next 3 slides will explain the components of school performance grades and briefly highlight the difference between achievement and growth. Next slide. This slide shows a pie chart of the school performance grade. We'll call it SPG, as I will refer to throughout the presentation. SPG is based on 80% achievement and 20% on academic growth per NCDPI. The total score is converted to a 100-point scale, then assigned a final grade using the 15-point scale, and you see that table at the bottom right-hand corner. Next slide, please. This slide breaks down the SPG indicators for elementary, middle, and high school. Elementary and middle schools are based on intergrade or EOG test scores and English language assessments for English learners, grades 3 through 8, with first-year EL students excluded. High school SPG includes end-of-course tests, ACT work keys or AWA scores, 4-year graduation rate, and EL assessments grades 10, with first-year EL students excluded. Specifically, you can see the indicators for each grade level and some of the business rules applied by NCDPI on the right-hand side. Next slide, please. This slide gives a brief explanation of the difference between achievement and growth. On the left side, there are brief explanations of achievement, and then on the right side, there are brief explanations of growth. At the top, you can see that there is a link that if you have time to look at, it's a 3-minute video that explains the difference between achievement and growth. So pretty much as I slide over, you can see that achievement on that side kind of goes on where students are in terms of their grade, where their grade levels are or what they're doing. And then on the growth side, it's the measure of the amount of academic progress students make between 2 points at a time, usually the academic school year. So growth and achievement. So again, you can watch those videos and see that as an explanation at the top. Next slide, please. The next few slides will review our district performance data. Within these slides, we'll talk about school performance grades, our SPGs, improved letter grades for schools, low performance in schools moving out of low performing, alternative schools modified accountability system for Durham Performance Learning Center, PLC, and Lakeview School, and we'll have some district celebrations. Next slide. So this slide shows school performance grades across 5 years, 2018 to 19 to 2024-25, with the 2019-20 and 2021 school years excluded due to COVID-19 and no growth reported. For 24-25, the district's A, B, and C schools increased to 56.6%. That is 30 schools up from 53.8%, which was 28 schools in 23-24. The 24-25 school year also marks the highest number of A schools since 2018 and 19. And you can see also we do, again, you can see the pie chart again, starting on the left side, starting on the left side, going to the right side. Next slide, please. This slide celebrates our schools that earned an A, B, and C grade. Again, I'm on the side, so I trying to move so I can see. But as you can see, schools with A grade, our middle was Lakewood Montessori. Our high school was City of Medicine, J.D. Clement College, and Middle College. Our schools with B grade was Burton, Easley, George Watts, Lyons Farm, Mangum, Moorhead Montessori, and Pearsontown. Middle school was Rogers Her, and our high school was Durham School of Technology and Durham School of the Arts. And then also our grades, our schools with C grades, our elementary was Club Boulevard, E.K. Poe, Forest View, Glen, Holt, Hope Valley, Merrickmore, Oak Grove, Southwest, Spring Valley, and Little River. And our middle schools were Shepherd, Githens, and School for Creative Studies. And our high schools were Jordan and Riverside. Next slide, please. So these are our improved letter grades. This slide shows this slide shows at least schools that rose at least one letter grade from last year, proof that their strategies, persistence, and hard work are making a difference. So you can see our schools that moved from a D to C. Hope went from 50 to 56, and those are their scores beside them in parentheses. Hope Valley went from 53 to 55. Little River went from 53 to 62. Oak Grove went from 51 to 69, and then Spring Valley went from 54 to 60. And then our schools moving from C to B status, it was Rogers Her going from 68 to 73, and then Burton going from 66 to 73. And then also our B school going to A was Lakewood Montessori with going from 83 to 86. Next slide, please. So this slide shows our low performing schools from 1819 through 24-25. You notice the numbers stayed the same for the 2019-20 and 2021 because of COVID. As a celebration, we're excited to share that as a district, the number of low performing schools has decreased from 20 in the 2023-2024 school year to 17 for the 24-25 school year, a clear step forward in the right direction. Next slide, please. We do have this slide recognizes our schools that have moved and that have worked incredibly hard alongside their staff, students, and families and communities to move out of low performing status. It reflects dedication, commitment to their continuous improvement, and a belief that our students can and will succeed. So our schools moving out, you see elementary was Eastway, Eno Valley, Hope Valley, Little River, and Spring Valley, and our middle school was Lucas. Next slide, please. So this slide shows our 17 schools identified as low performing. This is not a label of limitation, but of opportunity. These schools have dedicated educators, resilient students, and committed leaders working tirelessly every day. They're not defined by where they are today, but by the tremendous potential they hold. We believe and will speak into existence that they will not remain where they ended last school year. So you can see for our elementary schools, I'm not going to read them off. You have 11, as last year we had 13 elementary schools. For middle, we have 2. Last year we had 3 that were in low performing, and then for high school we had 3 this year. We had 3 last year, and then of course you see our one school at the bottom that covers all our grade levels. Next slide, please. This slide explains the alternative schools accountability for Durham Durham Performance Learning Center, which is PLC, and Lakewood School fall under. The State Board of Education provides 3 accountability system options for alternative schools, and you as a school board approved option C for PLC and Lakeview for the 24-25 school year during the May 23rd, 2024 Board of Education session. As a board, you have approved option C for PLC and Lakeview for the 2025-2026 school year. You did that this past May at the Board of Education work session. Next slide, please. So this table shows a breakdown of 6 indicators and percentages earned at each indicator for PLC. The breakdown of the 4 designated areas is shown in the table on the bottom, which starts with emerging to developing to succeeding and excelling as the highest. So the overall composite for PLC, Durham PLC, was 72.3, which earned PLC a succeeding designation, which was the 2nd highest designation. And as a brief breakdown, you can see participation was 10%, worth 10%. This report provides EOC testing cycles so they can monitor their progress, so participation in those tests. School performance was actually just proficiency because they don't have, the PLC does not have a growth index. So the proficiency is data for all EOC assessments administered that were collected. So the proficiency for that. Cohort graduation rate is self-explanatory. It's those students that graduated. And then also persistence is the calculation for the percentage of students who enrolled in PLC and remained enrolled in PLC or any North Carolina school through the end of the school year, including students who graduate. And then also they have earned credits, which is, for earned credits, it's the indicator is Power School or Infinite Campus now was used for the authoritative source. So again, it was the total group of students that their final grades and students marked with a potential credit, and then all those that got that potential credit. So that's just a breakdown of kind of the categories for PLC. Next slide, please. Similar, this is a breakdown for Lakeview. They also have 6 indicators. They have different indicators. Again, they have, you see the 4 designations at the bottom, and their overall composite was 71.6, which earned them the excelling designation, which is the highest designation. Their breakdown was attendance. Of course, those are students that attended, of course, Lakeview at the time, at the end of the year, they did an attendance rate. Persistence is the same as PLC. Again, it was the percent of students who enrolled at Lakeview and remained enrolled at Lakeview or any North Carolina school through the end of the school year. Suspensions, it was, this indicator measured students enrolled at the end of the year who were not assigned out of school short-term, long-term, or any kind of 365 suspension. Then you have school performance. They actually have proficiency and they have growth. So if proficiency, of course, is the students that were proficient on their EOCs or EOGs. And then also EVOS growth was our EVOS growth, and that was 20%. So that's just a breakdown of the table of the indicators for Lakeview. Next slide, please. So the next slides will review EVOS growth status for DPS over a 5-year period and highlight some celebrations. Just as a reminder, the education value added system assessment systems, or EVOS, it measures student growth in North Carolina by comparing the student's performance to the average progress of the students statewide. And so rather than focusing on final achievement levels, EVOS tracks how much a student grows from the start to the end of the school year. A school's overall growth status is based on the combined growth of all their students in their school. Next slide, please. So this slide reviews the EVOS growth status comparison over 5 years, 2018-19 to 24-25, with the years 19-20 and 2021 excluded due to COVID-19 and no growth data. So for 24-25, DPS increased the number of schools that met or exceeded to 88.9%. That was 48 schools, up from 80.8%, which was 48 schools in 23-24. The 24-25 school year also marked the highest number of schools meeting or exceeding growth since before 2018-19. Next slide, please. So the next 2 slides will recognize schools that met or exceeded growth. Growth is one of the measures of that impacts, because it shows no matter where students begin, educators are moving them and making a difference. So as you can see, I'm moving again for elementary. You see Burton, C.C. Spalding. Let me say these are exceeded growth. Burton, C.C. Spalding, Eastway, Eno Valley, Forest View, Holt, Lyons Farm, Mangum, Merrick Moore, Moorhead Montessori, and Oak Grove. And those elementary schools that met growth was Bethesda, Club Boulevard, Creekside, Easley, Fayetteville Street, George Watts, Glenn, Hillendale, Hope Valley, Lakewood, Little River, Pearson Town, Arn Harris, Southwest, Spring Valley, W.G. Pearson, and Y.E. Smith. Next slide, please. This slide shows the middle schools that met or exceeded growth. And just want to recognize before I read off 100% of our middle schools either met or exceeded growth. So that's a great accomplishment. So for exceeded growth, we have Brogdon, Carrington, Shepherd, Lakewood Montessori, Lucas, Rogers Her, Githens, and School for Creative Studies. And then for our schools that met growth, you have Ignite Online Academy, Lowe's Grove, and Neal. And I think there is one more underneath there that I can't see. That's it? Okay. All right, next slide, please. And then these are the schools that met or exceeded on our high school level. And so for exceeded on the high school, it was City of Medicine Academy, Durham School of Technology, Durham School of the Arts, and J.D. Clement Early College. And for our high schools that met growth, it was Jordan, Hillside, Riverside, Southern School of Energy and Sustainability. Next slide, please. So DPS continues its trends by having schools ranked in the top 100 and 20 percentile of the state's 2,590 schools for academic growth. So we had one school, J.D. Clement Early College, ranked 20th in North Carolina with a 10.39 growth index, which was the highest in DPS. We had two other schools ranked in the top 100. It was City of Medicine. They were ranked 44th in North Carolina, and then Shepherd Middle ranked 69th in North Carolina. DPS had 15 schools ranked in the top 20% of the state's 2,590 schools for academic growth. These schools with asterisks had 2 consecutive school years in the top 20 in the state. The first 3 you've already mentioned, Early College, CMA, and Shepherd, and as noted, they have asterisks, so they were in this ranking in the top 100 or 20 percentile for 2 consecutive school years. We have Lakewood Montessori Middle, Durham School of the Arts, Burton, Oak Grove, Durham School of Technology, C.C. Spalding, Rogers Herr, Lyons Farm, Holt, Lucas, Moorhead Montessori, and Mangum. Next slide, please. This slide highlights DPS statewide ranking of schools meeting or exceeding growth. So DPS placed in the top 10, actually number 9 among all districts, with our district being the largest school system in the top 10. Again, these are schools meeting or exceeding growth. So that's a great accomplishment. Next slide. This slide highlights, I should say, how DPS ranked among the 12 largest districts in North Carolina with schools meeting or exceeding growth. DPS placed first with 88.9. So the number in parentheses, as you see, is school districts where the district ranked in the state, meaning they're ranking the state with meeting or exceeding growth. And I'll let you, most of you seen this, but let you look at it for a second. But as you can see, we're first, and you can see some of where our counterparts are ranked in the state as well. I won't say any names. Next slide, please. So this slide shows how DPS compares with Durham charter schools in meeting or exceeding growth. DPS achieved 88.9% growth, notably higher than the 71.4 among Durham charter schools. Next slide, please. This slide highlights DPS ranking among the 12 largest districts in NC, specifically its 35% English learner or EL progress, which ranks us right about the middle, around 7th among other large districts. Next slide, please. The next set of slides will review the district's overall grade level proficiency, subject level proficiency, EL progress, and some celebrations around EL progress. Next slide, please. This slide reveals the district's overall grade level proficiency, or GLP, which includes all end of grade, which is EOGs, and end of course, EOCs, over 6 school years from the school years 18-19 to 24-25, of course, excluding the 19-20 year due to COVID-19. So for 24-25, our overall proficiency was 48.2, which was an increase of 1.2 percentage points from 23-24. Our overall grade level proficiency was the highest since post-COVID. And we did fall a little short, though, for our strategic plan goal for 24-25 of 54.5 by 6.3 percentage points. Next slide, please. This slide shows our reading proficiency results for grades 3 through 8 with a composite of 47.2%, an increase of 2.7 percentage points from 23-24. We had a proficiency gains in each of our grade levels. As you can see, the changes from the 23-24 school year to the 24-25 school year. Next slide, please. This slide shows our math proficiency results for 3 through 8 with a composite of 50.6, an increase of 2.1 percentage points from 2023 to 2024. And I should say it's 3 through 8 as well, including Math 1, our Math 1 also included in there as well. So EOGs for 8th grade and Math 1 for those that took that. We had proficiency gains of 6 out of the 7 areas, with the only decrease, I'm sorry, in grade 3, as you see the changes from the 23-24 to the 24-25 school year. Next slide, please. This slide shows our science proficiency results for grades 5 and 8 with a composite of 53.8, a decrease of 7.5 percentage points. As you can see the changes from the 23-24 to the 24-25 school year. Do want to note that renorming happened in the 24-25 school year. So renorming involved the state updating its science standards. So the science tests were renormed, and this year now serves as a new baseline going forward. So going forward, students' results in science will always be compared back to this baseline year to ensure alignment with updated standards. So that's what it means for it to renorm, okay? Next slide, please. This slide shows our end of course or EOC proficiency results for biology, English 2, Math 1 for middle and high school students, and Math 3 compared to the 23-24 school year. We had a proficiency gains in 4 out of the 5 areas, with only decrease in Math 1 in high school, as you see those changes. Wanted to note that Math 3 had the biggest increase with 12 percentage points from the 23-24 school year. Next slide, please. And this is our English learner or EL progress slide. This ESSA requires each state to provide an annual English language proficiency assessment for all identified English learners or ELs. In North Carolina, this is the WIDA Access for ELs 2.0 or our access test. Under ESSA, EL progress must be measured and reported for all ELs in grades K through 12. But for SPG or school performance grade, the following grades are used: elementary grades 3 through 5, middle school grades 6 through 8, and high school grade 10 only. There was an increase of 7.9 percentage points from the 2023-2024 school year. Note that for the 24-25 school year, the exit scores for overall access composite was lowered from 4.8 to 4.5. Students' yearly progress goals were also adjusted to match this change. And if you notice, 3 years ago, our EL progress rate lagged the state by 9 points, 9.9% versus 19.1% in 2020-2021. Since then, DPS has grown 25 points, outpacing the state by 16 points, and we're now essentially neck to neck with North Carolina this year. As you can see, 35 versus the 35.2 in 24-25. So we came behind and are now keeping pace. DPS EL progress rose from 9.9% to 35% since 2020-2021, closing a 9-point gap with the state. Next slide, please. So this celebration slide shows all the schools that surpassed their strategic plan goal 1E benchmark of 38% or better, which we had 33 out of our 55 schools, which is 60% of our schools. So that's not just a statistic, that's a lot of students making progress in language acquisition. Next slide, please. So our next slides will show our district's high school, college, and career, or CCR indicator comparisons and some celebrations. So North Carolina CCR indicator sets benchmarks measuring student proficiency in English and math at the college level, with the goal of ensuring graduates can succeed in introductory college courses without remediation. Next slide, please. So this slide reviews the high school or the CCR indicators across 6 years from 2018 and 19 through 24-25, excluding the 19-20 year due to COVID. So CCR includes 5 indicators: 4-year cohort graduation rate, math course rigor, ACT or ACT work keys, and the combined ACT work keys or AWA, first introduced in 17-18. And so this table shows our CCR indicators for the 24-25 school year. 4-year cohort graduation rate was 80.4. That's a decrease of 2.9 percentage points from last year. And again, the 4-year cohort graduation rate are students who graduate in 4 years after their 9th grade entry date. Next, math rigor is 94.5. We decreased from last year 0.5 percentage point. And this is the number of seniors who receive a math credit for Math 3. ACT was 49.2%. That's an increase from last year by 13.1 percentage points. And that is the number of 11th graders who scored proficient on the ACT composite score. So I know this might be a little confusing again, so I'm gonna try to explain it with the asterisks if you can see it. So if you look for the 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24 school years, UNC system minimum requirements changed the ACT minimum composite to 19 to count as passing for students. Before that, the score was 17. So in those years, you had to get 19. They changed it to 19, and they changed it from 19 to count, and before that, it was 17. So those are the 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24 years. Then in the 18-19, 2021, and 2024-2025 years, they changed it back. So the UNC systems changed it to count for 17 for passing instead of 19. I know that's confusing, but that's how they did it. So that's why we try to put asterisks there. So pretty much the 24, the ones that have the orange asterisks and the green asterisks, they switched them back and forth. So one time you had to get 19, they switched it to 17, then they went from 17 to 19. So we tried to spell it out for you, but the state did that, not us. So that's the reason why that is up there like that. So if you look at the orange asterisk, that goes with the description of when it changed, and the green goes with the one it changed. So that's the reason why. So again, for the 24-25, they changed it back again. For this year, they changed it to 17 to pass for students. And the year before that, it was 19. Okay? All right. And so then we have ACT work keys. That was 56.7%. That was a decrease from last year at negative 4.7%. And the ACT work keys are the number of CTE concentrators who earn a silver or better on the work keys assessment. All right. So I'm really going to confuse you now. So ACT and ACT work keys are reported, but for SPG, or for the indicators, they combine ACT and ACT work keys, meaning that they look at seniors, and if a senior scored whatever this year, scored that 19 or 17, I should say, on the ACT, or they got a silver, they count one of those. So for example, if I'm a senior and I hit one of those marks, then I go into the ACT work keys pot, if that makes sense. So ACT and ACT work keys are reported, but that bottom one, ACT work keys, or AWA, is what's counted in school accountability. Okay, I know that's confusing. But I'm trying to, it's complicated, but that's what they use as an indicator. So if I'm a senior and I don't pass either, if I don't get a silver certificate or I don't make that minimum score on the ACT, then I'm not counted. If I do one of those, then I'm counted in that count to go to school performance grade. Okay? I don't know if that makes sense, but I tried to explain it. All right, next slide, please. So this is high schools with ACT. This celebration slide, I should say, shows schools that met or surpassed our strategic plan goal 1D benchmark of high schools with ACT and the ACT work keys of 61.4% or better. So you have J.D. Clement Early College, City of Medicine, Middle College High School at DTCC, which is now as our DEC schools, but that's what it was last year, and then Durham School of the Arts. Next slide, please. DEX, I'm sorry. You got that acronym? Okay. This celebration slide shows all the schools that met or surpassed their strategic plan goal 1C benchmark of high schools with cohort graduation rates, or CGRs, of 86.4% or better. So we had 3 schools that achieved 100%, so they had a 100% graduation rate, and that was J.D. Clement Early College, City of Medicine Academy, and Middle College High School at DTCC or DEX. And then we had 3 schools that were from 86.4% to 99.9%, and that was Durham School of the Arts, Durham School of Technology, and the School for Creative Studies. Next slide, please. So this slide gives information about DPS advanced placement and our AP score report. This data is not officially a part of the ESSER accountability data, but we did want to share it as it relates to college and career readiness indicators. So among the celebrations for DPS 2025 score reports, there was an increase of 247 exams taken, a 5-year high, with a 6% increase in qualifying exams. And then we also had an increase in performance for all student groups. There were 51 AP teachers who had courses with scores at or above the state or global average. And then finally, 46% of our AP classes offered in DPS had scores above state and or global average. Next slide, please. So the next few slides, we'll review our district subgroup performance data. Within these slides, we'll talk about composite for all subgroups with the change from the 23-24 school year, subgroup comparisons over time for the last 7 years, and subgroup cohort graduation rate over the last 7 years. Next slide, please. So this slide shows subgroups within DPS with the total number of students tested and the overall composite are on the top row, and then all other subgroups are listed to the left. The total number tested was in the middle, and their percent proficient to the right. And then on the far right, the change from the 23-24 to the 24-25 school year. The overall proficiency for all subgroups is 48.4, with an increase of 1.4 percentage points from 23-24. 6 out of 10 subgroups increased from the 23-24 year: American Indian, Black, Hispanic, white, and academically gifted. We had 4 out of 10 subgroups decrease from 23-24. That was Asian, multiracial, economically disadvantaged, limited English proficient, and students with disabilities. Next slide, please. So this slide highlights our cohort graduation rate, CGR, by race and ethnicity over a 7-year period, beginning in 2018-19 through the last school year, 24-25. So the subgroups listed are all students, Asian, Black, Hispanic, multiracial, and white. And as mentioned previously, the 24-25 school year CGR is 80.4, so we were down 3 percentage points from 23-24. And so here, as noted, some differences. I know those are small, but some differences you can see. The Asian subgroup decreased by 10.9 percentage points. Our Black subgroup modestly decreased by 1/10 of a percentage point. However, though, we had an increase of almost 2 percentage points for Black students since 18-19. And then our Hispanic group decreased by 5.6 percentage points. Our multiracial subgroup decreased by 1.2 percentage points. Our multi-subgroup increased, my apologies, by 1.2 percentage points, and then the white subgroup decreased by 1.7 percentage points. Next slide, please. This slide highlights our other subgroup graduation cohort rate over that 7-year period, again, beginning in 18-19 through last school year, 24-25. And the subgroup listed are, of course, all students, academically gifted, economically disadvantaged, limited English proficient, and students with disabilities. And so here are our kind of just notes. Our academically gifted remain constant at 95%. And as a general reminder, please note that data points greater than 95% must be shown as 95% to protect those students' confidentiality. Economically disadvantaged subgroup decreased by 3.5 percentage points. Our limited English proficient group decreased by 1.5 percentage points. And our students with disabilities group increased by 2.5 percentage points. Next slide, please. Okay. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Ashley Stevens. She's the Director of School Innovation, as she will review efforts toward continuous improvement, district level actions, and school supports.
Good afternoon. Tonight, I will highlight our focus and supports that will ensure we continue moving the data presented forward. Under the leadership of Ms. Sidbury, the Continuous Improvement in School Support Department is grounded in the idea that we are not looking for surface level fixes. Our commitment is to steady the work that is already moving the lever for students and to remain true to the processes, procedures, expectations, and policies we have. Next slide, please. When we talk about continuous improvement, we want to be clear across the organization that this is not about chasing the next shiny solution. We're aligning frameworks that are already in place to ensure sustained, meaningful outcomes for students. It's about doing the steady work that makes a difference for students. By aligning these frameworks, we're creating one connected system instead of a patchwork of initiatives. That coherence helps our schools focus, keep expectations consistent, and ensure equity is at the center of every decision. Next slide, please. At the district level, we've made a conscious shift from compliance oversight to true partnership with schools. One of our most powerful tools in this shift is the use of 360-degree data for impact. With this model, we use multiple types of data to conduct triangulation and root cause analysis to develop high-leverage action steps. It gives a full picture of a school by looking at qualitative, quantitative, process, and perceptual data through the lenses of student outcomes, demographics, environment, and implementation fidelity together, not in isolation. That deeper view helps us respond to the underlying concerns that create reactive practices, communicate more clearly with schools, celebrate our wins, and provide support that actually builds capacity where it's needed the most. Next slide, please. At the school level, leadership teams are driving this work forward. They're leading the planning, keeping PLCs focused, and reviewing data regularly so that adjustments can happen in real time. Communication with staff and families keeps everyone engaged and aligned. This steady, consistent approach is what grows teacher capacity, strengthens school culture, and most importantly, produces lasting results. Our charge moving forward is to not be distracted by shortcuts or quick fixes. Instead, we will stay steady, focused, and aligned because that is what will deliver the outcomes we are looking for. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Thank you both. Colleagues, who wants to go first?
Yeah, take questions. I'm sure there's a lot of them.
Well, there's a lot to celebrate, and there's still more work to be done. But our students and our educators did well last year. Ms. Harold Goff.
I just want to say, yay, go DPS, woo, woo, woo. I want to be a cheerleader. Congratulations to all of our students, who are working really hard. And I love saying, I know I've heard Dr. Lewis talk about, being the #1 premier district in the country, in the world, in the universe. But I really do feel like we're quite exceptional. So it's hard to read the numbers and to see things moving and changing and to know all the work we have to do. But so much gratitude for the hard work that our students and our educators are doing every day. And we are quite exceptional.
Ms. Chavez.
Thank you for this great presentation. And thank you for the team for all the work that you've done. I think the theme is growth. It's, all throughout. And so there is a lot to be proud of. I think I just want to make some comments. I wanted to note that I was really happy to see the increases in all the reading levels. We know that's fundamental for our students. The increase in EL progress, that's huge. I hope that we will be a model for the state as one of the districts with the highest EL populations. And so I'm so proud of the work that we've, clearly done, especially in the last couple years around that. And so I want to note that, and also just, I want to say something about standardized tests because our students are obviously not, we don't ever want them to feel like a number reflects who they are as people. And it's not to criticize anything, any work that we're doing, because we are teaching our scholars to navigate this world. And and standardized tests do give us information that we use And so they're a tool, and like other tools, they have limitations. Um, and, you know, they can be ableist. They have a history of racism and classism. And so I keep that in my mind as I'm looking at this data. But so I just want to say that to kind of frame things. But at the same time, we have lots, you know, we have put in, clearly our staff have put in so much work and invested in our scholars to help them to ignite their limitless potential possibility. Is that? Yes, thank you. Um, and let me see. I wanted to note that I'm glad to see a focus on decreasing the variability across the schools. That's important. Thank you for sharing about the 360 process as well. Um, I, and this is in a larger context, but I was concerned to see that 6% drop for Hispanic students of their cohort graduation rate. And just I'll note that the 72.5% is very low, and that's not that I don't know what it is nationally, but you know, we are in a larger context, so I don't think it's just DPS, but it's concerning, and it's the lowest of any racial or ethnic group. And then I wanted to just say one thing about incentives. I hope that we will also not use incentives that divide students in any way around testing or that shame any of our students. We are continuing to invest in our students and we love them and believe in them no matter what score they get on the test. So those are my comments. But thank you so much. I mean, it really shows a lot. It really shows a lot. And thank you, Dr. Lewis, because it's a collective, systems level effort that trickles all the way down. So thank you so much.
Colleagues, we have 4 minutes left. Ms. Carter-Eaton.
I'll be brief and just reiterate, thank you. Congratulations. Recognize this is the result of a lot of hard work on behalf of our staff here and in our schools and our students, and also just holding the truth that like these numbers, while I'm feeling very proud of many of these numbers, this is just a piece of the story, and really knowing what happens in our schools and the magic that takes place in all of our classrooms is the more important maybe or other accompanying part of the story, right? We need our kids to be proficient and we really, really want to see growth. And that's what's super exciting this year. That means kids have learned a lot and that many of our kids have learned. So I still am left, might take more than our allotted time. I'm still feeling a little bit confused about the, and I'd sent this question ahead of time and still don't quite understand the answer. And that might be a me problem. But the English learner progress and the science, the fact that the English learner progress, we'll start with that, because the exit score changed, does that mean that we really can't compare this year's percentage point with last year's? And if that is not the case, then can you help me understand why those are comparable if the exit score changed?
All right, so yes, I'm going to read it from an accountability standpoint. I actually talked to Ms. Rahman today, or talked to her. I also talked to Dr. Pittman. So I'm going to kind of read. I kind of did try to put this in simpler terms. If I don't answer it, I apologize. Maybe you can follow up to get your specific answer. But the change kind of affected the change affected who can exit. It also lowered the yearly goals for some students, even if their goal was only to make progress and not to exit. DPI made this change because the data showed that over the last 3 years, ELs or English learners who scored at 4.5 were performing like their non-EL classmates on state tests. So this rule is only about 24-25. A new access test will start in 25-26, and then the standard will be reset then. So that was a long answer. I don't know if I answered your question. I don't know if we could follow up with Dr. Pittman's department to get more of a clear answer. But that's kind of what, when we talked without convoluting, I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what I kind of checked based upon your question I received, kind of the answer that I received. Because again, I'm kind of speaking it from an accountability standpoint, whereas that department can do those nuances, if that makes sense. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but I tried.
Thank you. So there was a true 7.9 percentage point increase from last year to this year. Like,
Yes.
that is an accurate reflection of this data.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I'll follow up to learn more about this and what my brain might not be understanding right now. And then about the science proficiency. So on that slide 32 on my slide deck, those really are not, like, that looks very bad, but those are not real, that's not real change because the science was renormed.
Every time, and Nelson is a good renorm, Mr. Searles, I'm sorry, can also attest. But let me say this first. It went around, the science scores for the state, the districts I to dropped everywhere. Because when you renorm the test, again, it's new standards.
Right.
So what's happening is they establish new standards at the state, and then students are tested on those standards. And then once those standards and the results come back, that's called renorming. So again, next year at this time, they will compare, after students take the test during the 25-26 year, they'll then compare those scores and those cut scores and everything to the students this year. So this is like I guess, am I saying it's a rock bottom? It's a base. So that's the reason why they're so low, because it's technically a new test. Every time we've renormed, we've had a dip, historically, meaning, and it is not just our district. I talked to other districts, everybody's science scores were low, but it's expected because it's a new test with new standards.
Right. So it doesn't make sense to actually compare the 23-24 to this year's.
Yeah, so Dr. Tuck Thomas said it's not included in accountability when they renormed. But I guess you could say, we just wanted to let you know where we were at, but we typically compare year to year. So that's the reason why it looks like it does, because it's a new test. But it's really a different test because the tests they took this year are different standards than the 23-24 school year.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. Byer, you look like you want to say something.
I want to always take the time to celebrate the students and the staff that worked so hard to get us to this place. I love seeing Bree's school as an A school, which means that Bree and her peers are getting it done. A school that exceeded growth, City of Medicine, a school that is number 44 in the state for academic growth. Bree, we're proud of you, but we are also proud of every single school in this district. So 2 minutes. Is that what you're looking at me about? Yeah, I don't like the new timekeeping. I'm just going to go ahead and put that in the record. I think one of the things that needs to be celebrated that I didn't hear others say was the growth in numbers of kids taking AP courses and doing well in AP. That's huge. And then one of my areas I look forward to hearing more about is just how we work on this graduation rate, because we've got to make sure that every child in Durham is ready for what is next, and that's a high school diploma. So I just want to celebrate our folks and give the minutes back to Ms. Rogers. Thank you.
Thank you. I will start with some of my questions. Very appreciative presentation. Ms. Byer started with the AP. What plans are in place if the state of North Carolina doesn't support paying for the AP test this year? How do we make sure that we keep those numbers up? Is there an ask of the board to help with that? What are we doing to communicate with families that they may need to pay for AP testing? Look for resources, anything like that?
As I will say, I'll kind of look over at Dr. Pittman. I'm kind of reporting on accountability, so we can get that answer for you. I'm sure people are taking notes and doing that, but I'm not able to answer that per se on.
Are you nervous about what it's going to do to accountability results if the state doesn't pay for them?
I'm nervous if we don't get any kind of funding. Yes. So
Well,
yeah.
we all
Yeah.
are.
Yes.
Things changed drastically. The last report I heard was the state was going to pay for the AP exams. Dr. Pittman, did that change? Has that changed yet?
Yes, and we're waiting for definitive guidance from the state so that we can support our students. We don't want our exams to cut to lower and participation rates. We're on an upward trajectory. We've got positive momentum, great leadership from the district level, our schools, our principals, and of course, our AP faculty. So we have really made tremendous gains. Tonight, Dr. King, over the last couple of days, and our director, Laura Parrott, have been presenting at the state level on our progress and the work we're doing. So we definitely want to maintain this momentum and continue the good work our schools are accomplishing.
And let me clarify too. I'm sorry. I said this in my presentation. I had a brain freeze, and Nelson reminded the AP. Even though I don't want to diminish, it's very important, but it's not a part of accountability measures. So let me say that. So, okay, I did. Okay.
Thank you. The only other question that I kind of have, and I wonder if my colleagues are, well, there are two. I have a question that I'm going to ask for Mr. Tab, but the one question I think I have for my colleagues is, are we aware as a board about the per pupil spending at the schools that are outperforming other schools? And would it be of interest to us to look at the per pupil spending based on the scores? Do you understand my question? Ms. Chavez?
My short answer is yes. I would be interested to know that. I also, I'm curious about like spending that is not captured, maybe more officially, like kids who get to go on field trips. Sorry, kids who get to go on field trips, or the spending on those things. Is spending that is only allotted for certain groups of students based on activities that they're participating in. So anyway, that's something I think about. So you just tapped into that. And then with our reporting of grants, I'm interested to know how that affects per pupil spending as well.
I can't speak to when the right time would be for that. Ms. Carter, for any of it, I don't know. Ms. Carter.
Yeah, I'd be super interested in looking at per pupil spending with the long-term goal of like having a more, and I know Dr. Lewis has mentioned this before, but having a more like equity-based allocation of resources in our district, at least would be where I would be going with that. And I think that okay, to make sure we're giving more resources, staffing allocations, and or like financial resources to schools that need more of that.
Ms. Byer.
Yeah, I'm just kind of reflecting. We did that. We dug into that spreadsheet wise many years ago, and it is helpful. And I also want to be clear that none of our schools have enough. And so I'd be interested in like cabinet taking a look at it and seeing what reflections they have, maybe leading into budget season. But I don't think just bringing straight numbers straight to us without their, yeah, I don't know.
I also, let me be clear. Yes, I would like us to see it. I also don't believe that everywhere we're spending, there's more per pupil spending is performing better, right? Because there's some schools that are doing great with less. And so we don't know that unless we look into it every few years. So just to know would be helpful. Ms. Chavez.
I would ask Dr. Lewis, what are your thoughts on this, and how do you use that data currently?
Yeah, I just got the report yesterday, Jeremy. per pupil, and it's kind of varies by school. And you also have to take into account exactly what Chair Rogers mentioned around some schools that we may spend more on, may not be outperforming based on that. Because you have to take into account small schools and additional staff. Jeremy can speak to how he developed the spreadsheets. I mean, we have the spreadsheet ready.
I think, yeah, Dr. Lewis prepared me to anticipate this request, and so we did in the past day or so develop a sheet that just looked at every funding source, state, local, federal, grants, things of that nature. Right, we excluded school nutrition. Right, the board's got a level playing field there with everyone having access to free breakfast and lunch, and so. We looked at every column there of funding type that we provide from budgeted funds, and then we divided that by the number of pupils enrolled. And I think Dr. Lewis is right. We did see a mixture of things, that some were doing well with less and some didn't do so well with a whole lot, and outcomes in between. We really had some, I think we expressed that part two of that is a deeper dive of how effective are the choices, how well are they making choices with those resources. And so we're looking at things like how much of that was spent on food, how much of that was spent on tutoring or development, and things that we know are high impact. And I think one piece that's a factor in that, there are dollars that are at the school's control, and some of them some of them may benefit from, they have more seasoned teaching personnel, and more personnel with master's degrees, and so the personnel expenditures are driving some of that per pupil costs, and so we can um, certainly push into that further to see how much of that is driven by the cost of the personnel at those schools, and is it reflective of a higher qualified teacher base at certain schools. So there's a lot of different ways we can dissect it. And so just based on that initial look yesterday, right, we have, I think, more questions that we'll spring into as a cabinet, to Ms. Byers' point, and happy to compile some sort of analysis for the board.
Thank you. Okay, I have to ask Mr. Taft's question. How did we end up with 2 F schools this year instead of just the one from last year? I don't know. I don't know that we identified what schools those were
No, we
in the slide.
no, we didn't. We didn't identify those. But and I'm sorry, repeat the question. How?
Yeah.
I guess the accountability is that the answer would be is, of course, all their indicators for SPG gave them a certain score, which did that. Now, I guess if you're asking what happened at that particular school or schools, is that the question?
Okay, so I can't interpret that. I'm not gonna begin to interpret that, but what I'm hearing is you're the numbers guy and these are the results. And it may not even be the same one of the school that was the F last year, and then it could be potentially 2 different schools. I guess not the better question, the additional question would be, what supports are being put in place for those schools to improve them this year?
Me. So as we look at our schools, one thing that we've done, we've always looked at it this way, but we've taken a deeper dive of really focusing on those growth indexes for the schools. So our schools meet or exceed or don't meet, but we actually get a growth index score. So that's really where we're able to see sometimes our schools achievement, which is just the achievement part of the score, might be at one range, but their actual growth, the rate at which they're growing students change. So we've done a really deep dive into what those index scores look like, and we've created a matrix view of schools that are moving forward, moving backward, and maintaining proficiency versus moving forward, backwards, and then their growth index. To really look at, as we looked at retiering schools based on some very specific metrics to provide them support, what's that next layer of when we actually go into a school and conduct what we call impact meetings and really look at the right now data. School started a week later, what data do we have? We have that idea of we really need to be focused on moving that growth index because we do know it will take longer for some students to reach proficiency. The expectation is that they're still growing at that steady rate so that they can reach there.
Thank you.
And was mentioned earlier, really taking a hard look at how we're providing additional resources at those schools. Dr. King indicated at our last meeting and shared with the board and the public that Cabinet will be doing its meetings out in schools. We are prioritizing those 2F schools on the front end so we can hear and see from hear from the staff, hear from the administration as relates to what additional supports are needed in those schools. So yeah, we're keenly aware of those 2 schools, and it was one additional, well, it was one elementary school that was added to that list and another middle school that maintained on that list. And so not only are we concerned about just the academic supports, but the wraparound services, the additional, just the upkeep of the buildings too, which also makes a difference as well. So we're looking holistically at providing equitable resources to all of our buildings.
Colleagues, anything else? Ms. Chavez?
I just want to ask if Bree has any questions or thoughts.
Oh, I was going there too.
You're good.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Um, I would like to say I'm really proud of the schools. I'm really proud of all the changes. I was worried about the science change, but since they changed the curriculum, that makes sense. Um, I just want to say thank you to all the teachers because without the teachers, we wouldn't have made this growth. I am very grateful. Teachers always have an impact, and I feel like good teachers will make a great impact in the future. I'm sorry. They will increase education, and I feel like when you have a good teacher, it makes an impact and it will just help you strive to get a better education. I would like to say shout out to my teachers and my principals, thank you. Especially my principal, Dr. Griffin Jordan. I would like to give her a thank you for giving me an opportunity and helping me see this new world because I want to come to the next meeting. Like, I really like these meetings. They're really interesting. I like to hear everybody out and I like to see the data and what we can do to improve schools and education. And I have one question about the graduation rates. What can we do to increase those graduation rates and decrease dropout rates?
Thank you for being here and thank you for that question. So that's one of our strategic plan goal teams, and we meet regularly to kind of look at this data and provide supports to schools. We have a couple of strategic efforts that are in place now, and that is one of the shifts we're making. There is a lot of data entry and paperwork that goes into getting that graduation cohort rate. So in order to do justice to that, we have to make sure that we have those processes and procedures in place and making sure that that's tight across all schools. But our shift has been in focusing in really our student services side of it and looking at those trends and dropouts and what proactive things we can put in place, starting all the way down into elementary school. So that has really been our focus in making those shifts, looking at mentor programs, looking at our four-year plans that we're working with in our middle schools so that we can be proactive on that front end. And then making sure that we have strategies for our current seniors that we want to see get across the line, this coming school year in that cohort rate. So finding a balance between what do our students need right now and what can we do so that we don't get to this place again.
If I could add, exactly, I agree exactly what was shared there. But also, when we think about just the academic performance of all of our students and ensuring that they are equipped to perform at that next level, really leaning in into what are the early indicators of a student dropping out, and it's typically attendance. So being keenly aware of that, where those patterns are, and then also math proficiency, ensuring that they are proficient in math by seventh and eighth grade is an early indicator in terms of dropout. And as was mentioned, there's a lot of reporting that goes on in that. And so, when a student may transfer to another school, in state or out of state, if we don't know where that student is, if the receiving school doesn't send us a records request and we can't locate that student's considered a dropout. And so it's going to take some accurate reporting, sometimes stalking on social media to find out where these students are so they can count for our graduation rate. And here's the thing, I shared this with our high school principals, is that right now your ninth grade class has 100% graduation rate. At which point do we lose it? And it's typically after that first 9 weeks, that first quarter. And so what are the safety nets? You often hear that sometimes kids just fall through the cracks. Well, there should not be any cracks. So what are those safety nets that we have in place immediately after that first quarter? If a student fails 1, 2, or 3 classes, what are those interventions and safety nets that we can put in place, and so that kids are not, we're not waiting until 11th and 12th grade trying to catch students up. So it's going to take a holistic approach, but we have a plan for that.
Thank you all. Colleagues, that's everything. The next thing on our
Can I
agenda.
make some comments?
Wasn't he just talking?
I have more comments. This is
Go ahead.
much to celebrate. Certainly appreciate Bree sharing. The teachers matter. The results of this data are a collective effort, but you've heard me say before, the number one decisive factor in terms of improving student outcomes is indeed the classroom teacher. The teachers can't teach the students if they're not at school. So our bus drivers, safety monitors, safety assistants who got the students to school, our food services who feed the students, it takes a full collective effort. And so if you think about just the growth that was shared today, yes, we want to celebrate. We're not going to throw a huge party because we have much more work to do, but that is something to be said about our amazing educators and, most importantly, our amazing students in this school system, despite the year that we had last year. Yet and still, we were able to see some of these gains. So I'm just hugely excited about where we're going this next year. And a huge shout out to PLC in Lakeview. I'm sorry, PLC in Lakeview, succeeding over there. So we have a lot to be really proud of and excited about as we think about just where we've come this short year. So more to come on that. We're going to dig deeper in this data and definitely come up with some action plans. We did not want to present this data without sharing also what we're doing to respond to this data. So more to come on that, but hugely excited about where we are and where we're going. And the fact that we or I think it was 89% of our schools met or exceeded growth. 89% met or exceeded growth. And of the largest 12 districts, we're number one. And you shared, Dr. Russell shared the charter school growth. And I'll just will say publicly that sometimes families in this community think that charter equals better. And that's certainly not the case. And so we have some amazing schools in Durham Public Schools, and we will continue to educate this community on what's so special about Durham Public Schools.
Colleagues, is there a motion to go into closed session?
I move that we go into closed session for the reasons stated on the agenda.
Second.
It has been moved by Ms. Byer, seconded by Ms. Harold Goff for us to go into closed session for the reasons stated on the agenda. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Tapp?
Aye, Wendell Tab.
Ms. Chavez?
Aye.
Ms. Byer?
Aye.
Ms. Carter-Otten?
Aye.
Ms. Harold Goff?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you all. Thank you, Bree. We won't stream after closed session. So thanks all. Good night.